Hello, welcome to Mud, Soil and Tears. My name's Kerry, this is Henrietta, and today I wanted to talk all about Henrietta's journey with her broken leg. Now, I found Henrietta in the chicken coop on New Year's Day, so that was roughly just over 2 weeks ago now. She managed to get her foot trapped in there between a couple of pieces of wood. And so she toppled herself off a shelf and she was dangling upside down when we found her in the shed. Now, luckily, we do go quite early in the morning, so I was there quite early, but I don't know when she'd done it. I'm guessing it hadn't been very long, but I can't be sure. So I got her down and I popped her down outside with the rest of the chickens, and it became very clear there was a problem. She wasn't putting her leg down, she couldn't walk on it, and the rest of the chickens were going over and they were starting to peck her and be quite vicious towards her as well. So I brought her home because I thought that'd be the best thing to do, to have a little look at her and see what had happened. My chicken coop is really, really muddy and boggy in the winter, and there was no way down there that I could see what the problem was or how to fix it. So I brought her home here to the house, and the first thing I did was give her a little bath because she was absolutely filthy. So she had a little bath in just some, I just filled up one of the children's toy drawers with some salty water, and popped her in there and give her a little bath, a nice warm bath to try and clear off some of the mud. Her leg was really quite badly injured. All of her skin was all broken where it had been trapped and she'd been struggling against it. So I washed that all as best I could, try and get it as clean as possible. And then I have some colloidal silver. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's antibacterial, antiviral, works on everything you can imagine. I keep it in the house because I use it on the kids when they hurt themselves or they cut themselves. So I cleaned her leg with this after she's had the bath because I wanted to make sure that her leg was as clean as it possibly could be before I started to try and do anything to it, because I didn't want any bacteria or anything to get caught in her leg. So I cleaned her up. And then we had a look at it, and it was pretty obvious that it was broken. It was broken on the lower half of her leg. So when I had a bit of a look about it, it's totally fixable, that part of the leg. If it was higher up, we would have been in a serious problem. So I decided I was going to splint it, because I'm not somebody who will let any of my girls go easily. I love all of my girls up there in the flock. So I wanted to do everything I could to try and help her. And because she wasn't injured in any other way that I could see, it was perfectly viable to try and help her out. So I got out a lollipop stick and some bandages. I just got a normal lollipop stick. We've got loads of them in our craft drawer, and I decided I was going to make a splint out of the lollipop stick. So we cut the lollipop stick down and turned it into two little mini splints. I measured up where the bottom of her leg was, and I made two little mini splints just like this, tiny ones. And then the one side obviously was quite rough around the edges, so we just got some normal sandpaper that we had and we just sanded it to make it smooth, because I didn't want it to stick into her leg or hurt her in any way. So I made two of those, and then I got a bandage. When her leg had dried off, I bandaged around the first part of her leg before I put the splints on, because I didn't want the splints to rub on the damaged part of her leg. So I bandaged around that, and then I popped in the splints, one on either side of her leg. It's really quite difficult for me to show you at the moment because she is holding her leg up, but I did put it on the under part of her leg and on the top part of her leg to hold it steady in that position. So when she puts her foot down, it was supporting her. There. So I popped the splints in, and then I wrapped it again in another bandage. Now, we did have self-adhesive bandages at first, but I ran into a bit of a problem with those because they were sticking to her feathers, and it was making it quite difficult for us to take it off to change the dressing. So I decided on just putting a bit of sticky tape around it, which worked much better because it wasn't getting all stuck to her feathers. If you've got a less feathery bird, then the self-adhesive bandages might work absolutely fine for you, but they weren't working for Henrietta. So I did that, splinted her all up, and then I managed to find on one of our local marketplace groups this dog cage. somebody was giving it away for free and it was perfect, just the right size for Henrietta to go in. So I brought that home and I got some sawdust, filled it full of sawdust for her, and popped in some food and water and popped her in there. So for the first day, she was feeling quite sorry for herself with her leg. She was really upset, very quiet. She wouldn't eat and she wouldn't drink anything either, which was worrying me, because if you've got chickens, you know there's not much that will stop them from eating, particularly when you offer them some sunflower seeds or some sweet corn. There's, you know, it's very rare that they won't snap them up in a second. So the next morning when I got up and she still didn't really want to eat, I thought I was going to have to do something about it. Now, just to bear in mind that I am in the UK. This did happen on New Year's Day, so there's no vets open to start with, but there's also bird flu at the moment in the UK, so all of the chickens are on a chicken lockdown, if you will. So they're not supposed to be out and you're not supposed to move them from one place to another. So even if I could have spoke to the vet, it's highly unlikely the vet would have seen them without me getting some sort of special permission to move my bird to the veterinary practice. And there's not many vets that are willing to have a bird in there at the moment. So I decided I was going to have to do something about it myself, because the next day was still a bank holiday. So I still wouldn't have been able to even speak to my vet. So I decided to make some of this. So it's a turmeric paste. It's just dried turmeric with coconut oil, black pepper and some water, and it's just cooked really gently on the stove until it turns into a paste. It's like this. So the turmeric is amazing. It's really anti-inflammatory. It can be sort of antiviral as well, and it's also really good at helping your body to generate white blood cells, and white blood cells are really great for immune support. So I thought that this would be absolutely brilliant for her, and it's natural, there's not putting anything harsh into her body. So I made this up for her and then tried to get her to take it. She wouldn't fall for any of my tricks. I tried it with sweet corn, I tried it with porridge oat, she wasn't having any of it. Eventually, I got her to take it with scrambled egg. So I scrambled it up in some egg for her and she took it. Now, I did that on the evening of the second day, the day after New Year's Day. Before I went to bed, I gave her about 1/8 of a teaspoon in some scrambled egg. I didn't want to give her too much. It's really hard to figure out dosing for it, because although people do use it on their pets, mostly it's used on larger pets, you know, dogs and cats. There wasn't really much on chicken dosing, so I went with about 1/8 of a teaspoon, because I wanted to see how her body tolerated it, how she did on it, and what happened. So I gave her that and we went to bed. The next morning when I got up, it was like having a different bird. As soon as I came in this room, she jumped up, she hopped across the cage, she was excited, she wanted to eat all of the food that I brought her. She ate it, she scoffed it, which was amazing. So I kept her on the paste, and I've gradually been working my way up to higher doses. So what I do now is I split a scrambled egg between 3 separate doses over the day, and give her 3 separate doses of turmeric. So breakfast, lunch and evening, she'll have 3 separate doses. And I've worked my way up now from about 1/8 of a teaspoon. She's probably getting about 1/2 a teaspoon each time, and she's tolerating it really, really well. And every day she's getting more active, more movement, so she's doing amazing on it. After about a week, she's been eating and drinking fine, but I did notice that she was starting to feel quite hot around the side where she had the injury. So I did have a conversation with a vet about her. They prescribed some anti-inflammatories, which she didn't really need by that point because she was absolutely fine on the turmeric. But the best advice that they could give me at that time was if she's not better within a week, then they would suggest putting her to sleep, which isn't even on my agenda really. You know, she's a perfectly fit and healthy bird. She is she's an ex-battery hen, so she's obviously had she had a bit of a rougher start to life, so she does have some issues from that. Okay, you can see a dog walking past the window. She did have some issues from that, but apart from that, she's absolutely fine. And I'm not really willing to put her to sleep when she's still having a good quality of life, which she is doing. So instead, I decided to try some natural antibiotics to see if they would help bring any heat temperatures or anything like that down for her and help her body's immune system to be able to deal with whatever was causing the problem on her leg. So I got some oregano. I've just been using the dried oregano, but this is really amazing for antibacterial, antiviral. I could have given it to her in an oil, but I chose to give it to her in the dried form instead because I was a little bit concerned that the oil might be a little bit too strong for her. I know people do give it to their chickens in an oil form, but for just to start with, I just went with just giving it to her in the dried form. And then I added in a really small amount, probably back to about 1/8 of a teaspoon of some, this is raw honey that I get locally here. I added in about 1/8 of a teaspoon to each portion of her scrambled eggs. So in each portion of her scrambled eggs, she has half a teaspoon of turmeric, 1/8 of a teaspoon of honey, and a good shaking of the oregano in with it. And I mix all that together, and then she just scoffs it down. She absolutely loves it. She doesn't bat an eyelid. So she eats that 3 times a day. And after a couple of days, I noticed that the heat had gone out of that side. She's not overly warm on that side anymore, and she's doing absolutely fine. So I've kept that up really for her up until today. And I plan to keep going with that as well for the next probably week, maybe even more than that. And we'll just see how she's getting on. I know she is having she's having an egg every day, but I think when you're dealing with a wound like this, I'm not a vet, but I think that, you know, protein and calcium are really important for building new bones and healing muscle and skin around where an injury is. So I'm happy for her to have such a high protein diet for a short period of time. I don't think it's going to be too detrimental to her health in the long run. Obviously, feeding a chicken that amount of food every single day forever would probably give her a heart attack, or she'd be extremely obese. But just for now, for the time being, I think she's absolutely fine with that. So the only other thing we've done now is it's been obviously over 2 weeks. So what I've done is I've taken her bandage off now, and she's not got the splints on anymore, because when we've been changing her dressing, the wound underneath, the skin wound where she did the injury, hasn't been healing very well. And I know that with a human, when you get a wound, if you cover it, it doesn't heal very well and it takes longer. Your wound heals much faster when it's exposed to the air around you. So I assume it's the same for a chicken. So now she's got the splints off after 2 weeks. Everything I read seemed to say 2 weeks was really the maximum that they need to keep them on. So I've taken the splints off now for her, and she's just got a wound exposed now to start healing, and it is healing. I can't really show you on the video because she doesn't like to get it out so much, but there is quite a big wound on her leg, but it's starting to heal now really, really well. It's obviously still swollen, but it's only been 2 weeks and it does take time. You know, with any injury that's as bad as Henrietta sustained, it does take time for the wounds and the inflammation to go down. And inflammation is, it's a good thing. Her body's sending things there to fix it. So I'm not too overly worried really about the inflammation. She's starting to weight bear on it now. So for the past week, she's been putting it down and she will weight bear on it for about 5 seconds. And then in the past couple of days, she's been weight bearing on it for about 10 seconds, which is amazing. It's really, really good. And she's kind of conducting her own physiotherapy as she goes. So she'll put her leg down, hold it, weight bear on it, and then she'll lift it up. And then she just spends some time lifting it up and down and moving the leg around, which is really amazing to see. She's really determined. She's working really hard on it. So the only thing that we don't know is the future of where she's going to live and how she's going to manage going back into the coop. Obviously, I'm planning on keeping her here for at least another couple of weeks, but chickens are flock animals. They do miss their gang. The only trouble is there is a pecking order in the gang, and I do worry that now putting Henrietta in, she's going to be coming at the bottom of that pecking order, which when you're already dealing with an injury, it might be a problem for her going forward. But that's something we'll have to wait and see about. I am thinking I might bring one of my gentler chickens home to maybe spend some time with her before she goes back in. My only other concern is I've got a couple of cockerels, and if she can't move around as fast as the other girl, she's going to be a really easy target for them, which might get a bit much for her. So it's all things that I've got to think about going forward. So I will do another video once we're getting her back into the coop, and we'll update on how we're doing it, what the plan is, and how I'm going to make sure that she's safely reintegrated in with her flock. For the time being though, she's got a really nice little teddy bear in there that she really loves. It's a bird teddy, and at night time she goes up to the back of her cage there and she snuggles up with her little bird teddy. And I think it just gives her that sense of security that she's got her friends around her. So that's Henrietta. That's Henrietta's story so far. I hope it's helped you if you've got a chicken that's maybe going through something similar, or something similar has happened and you're looking for a way to help her. That's everything that I've done so far. But just to say again, I'm not a vet. I don't have any medical experience. This is all just things that I've picked up through the years from having children, and ways that I've helped them deal with injuries as we've gone along. And I've just tried them out on Henrietta, and that's what's worked for us so far. So if you do have anything to add, or you've got any questions, then do pop them in the comments below. I'll try and answer the questions as best I can. But otherwise, I will see you soon. Bye bye.